After teasing us for weeks with trailers showing off the Pixel 8 series, Google is now ready to give us all the details about its latest flagships. Announced during the company's Made by Google event on Wednesday, the Pixel 8 and Pixel 8 Pro look largely the same as their predecessors, with a couple of key differences. The regular Pixel 8 is slightly smaller, which makes it easier to use with one hand. Meanwhile, the Pro model has a new matte finish, upgraded cameras, and an integrating temperature sensor. Across the Pixel 8 series, we are also getting the company's Tensor G3 processor, assistant improvements, and notably 7 whole years of Android and security updates. So you might actually be able to hang on to your Pixel flagship for a lot longer than before. Now we will just have to wait and see if the Pixel 8 and Pixel 8 Pro do enough for you to want to keep them around for years to come. It's worth noting upfront that though it's smaller than before, the standard Pixel 8 starts at $699, which is $100 more than its predecessor. That seems a little counterintuitive, but the slightly smaller display actually refreshes at up to 120Hz now, which is better than the 90Hz last year. Meanwhile, the Pixel 8 Pro cost $999, another $100 increase over the Pixel 7 Pro. You can find a slew of pre-orders offers from Google and most carriers to sweeten the deal. The temperature sensor might be useful in specific scenarios, but the bulk of the updates for the Pixel 8 series is in the assistant. With generative AI being all the rage this year, it's no surprise that Google is integrating those capabilities in its phones. On the Pixel 8, you will be able to ask the assistant to summarize, read aloud, and translate articles and web pages. I opened up my iPhone 15 Pro Max hands-on, long pressed the power button to bring up the assistant and told it to summarize this page. The assistant said the author reviews the iPhone 15 Pro Max, which has a new zoom lens and a new action button. It goes on to explain in 2 subsequent bullet points that my article had said that the action button is programmable and that the device has a titanium body and a fine woven case that is meant to replace the leather. My inner editor would tweak some of the language there, but the assistant generally did a good job summarizing my piece. At the bottom, Google asks for feedback on the summary and suggests some follow-up actions with buttons like About iPhones, Who invented the iPhone, and more. If you have spent any time playing with the chatbot like Bard or Bing AI, this will all feel very familiar. I didn't actually have to use my voice to ask for a breakdown of my article, by the way. After bringing up the assistant, the system offers suggested action like summarize, read aloud, translate, and search screen. If you want to keep your attention on crossing the road or don't have time to scan and enter review, the new read aloud tool can be very helpful. I particularly like that when you ask the assistant to read something out, a box appears with controls for playback speed, skipping ahead or back 10 seconds, as well as a progress bar that you can drag. At the bottom right of the playback box is a little translate icon. You can not only ask the assistant to convert articles in foreign languages into one you understand, but it can also read aloud in a supported language too. I asked for my review to be translated to and read aloud in Mandarin, and the Pixel 8 Pro did so accurately and almost immediately. One of my favorite features on Pixel phones is call screening, which lets you tap the assistant to figure out who is ringing you and why. With updates coming to the Pixel 8 line, the artificial voice will sound more natural, adding some pauses and non-verbal utterances to seem more human. We saw examples of this when Google first announced Duplex, and while most of us were nervous about the implications of AI that could sound much more human, there are potential advantages here. Most notably, callers are probably less likely to hang up if they think they are talking to a real person, and you will have an easier time asking them questions without picking up the phone. The assistant can also understand if someone is calling about a package and will suggest more follow-ups like leave by front door and I will be right there. During a rehearsed demo with a Google executives, this worked very well. But when I tried later by masquerading as a delivery person looking for a signature, the assistant failed to bring up a relevant prompt. I wouldn't be surprised if the company improves this further over time, and frankly, its call screening is still better than Apple's live voicemail, which was just released in iOS 17. Google's implementation allows for greater flexibility and interaction, making it more helpful. Another one of my favorite Pixel first tools is the Recorder app, and soon it will be able to provide summaries of your transcripts. If you use Recorder for loads of meetings and interviews, this may help you more quickly identify the chat you are looking for. Based on the demo I saw, it doesn't provide very detailed recaps, instead offering incredibly high-level bullet points. Reporters like myself will probably still need to spend a lot of time picking out noteworthy quotes. In addition to camera's assistant and the temperature sensor, there are some updates across the Pixel 8 series worth mentioning. Face Unlock, for example, has now been deemed to meet the company's internal security standards and can therefore be used in more areas like authenticating mobile payments or logging into apps. That's in part enabled by the Tensor G3 chip in both phones, which also powers things like Audio Magic Eraser, filtering out more spam calls, and more. We don't know very much else about Tensor G3 at the moment though. Google is also introducing a new name for the displays it uses on the Pixels, Actua on the smaller handset and Super Actua on the Pro. Think of it as Retina and Super Retina on Apple devices, but Google, the names don't really mean anything other than that the company is using its own software and processing to make things look brighter and sharper. We are at a point with smartphone displays where most human beings can't tell the difference between a Super Retina and a Super Actua display as long as they are playing the same content at the same brightness. What's worth noting is that the Pixel 8 now has a 6.2-inch screen and refreshes at 120Hz, while the Pixel 8 Pro maintains the same 6.7-inch size with an ever so slightly wider aspect ratio of 20:9. The Pros also have a matte finish this time and come in bay, porcelain and obsidian, while the smaller handset is available in rose in addition to the black and white options. For things like battery life, performance, how slippery the phone is and how hot it runs, we'll need to use the Pixel 8 and Pixel 8 Pro in the real world before we have a verdict. Stay tuned for our full review to get all those details.